Dot, welcome to Mint. Thank you for being on.
Thank
What's going on?
you. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, I'm good. It's a good week, all things considered. We're here.
Let's go.
We're making it through. Let's go.
We're here. We're alive. Are you in your studio right now? Where are you?
I am not. I'm actually in Sun Valley, Idaho,
Mm,
crashing at a family member's house at the moment. So I have some of my gear with me, but I'm not in my usual environment.
nice, nice.
So
All right.
hence
I
the
think I
iPhone recording.
I think a good place to start, okay, and this is kind of where I start with everyone, is a quick intro, okay? For starters, who are you, Dot? What does the world need to know about you? But more specifically, how did you get your way into crypto?
All good questions.
Yes.
Yes. So my name is Dot. My real name is Kate. Kate Alllonger. Dot is my artist name. I am a music producer, audio engineer, DJ, multi instrumentalist. I really like music. That's an easy answer to that question. I love making music. Yeah, I got into Web3 and crypto. Let's see, initially it was in like 2020, 2021. I was kind of day trading, swing trading as like a fun side hobby, just various coins and things. And then kind of got out of that because it was taking up so much of my time. And like at the end of the day, I want to be an artist and a creator, not so much a trader. I just don't have the bandwidth to stay researching and keep up to date on all the news around all of that. So that was kind of my entry point for about a year or so. And then actually got into NFTs and minted some of my work at the top of the year this year, 2022. And so I've mainly been active just as an NFT creator and also collector over the past year, just having so much fun with it. So yeah, music definitely my main gig still, but just been having fun with exploring Web3 and especially at this early point in the whole timeline of things. It's a really exciting time.
I haven't met an artist in the space that was also a day trader. That's
Yeah,
that's first to me. That's a weird or an interesting combo.
I was just really curious about it. And, I got super lucky. Obviously, the timing of when I was doing that definitely helped. And I happened to just get out at a good time as well, because it took up so much focus and, the markets never closed. So I felt like I was like losing sleep over this sometimes, and got super lucky. There's people that I'm sure do a way better job at it than I do. Um, so yeah, it was fun for a time, and it helped for me to fund some music projects and to just reinvest in
Got
music
it.
and buy some synths and things like that. But it was a very short chapter in my life. But yeah, whenever people ask like, how did you get into Web3, they're often surprised to like hear that was my starting point because it's a little bit far removed from music.
Before trading, did you have any other like financial or technical background that you kind of like mess around with? Or was that like your first
Um,
experience doing something like that?
Not a ton. Like I guess I have like a Roth IRA somewhere. Like
Okay.
that's kind of the extent of my yeah, like I don't know, adventures in finance. So it was something totally new, and I was like kind of just experimenting with very small amounts of money. And
Got it.
yeah, but it did help for me to just understand the space a little bit more and understand the technology behind it before then entering as an artist and creating NFTs and just having, a little bit more of a well-rounded perspective there.
Got it.
So,
At what age did you get into music?
oh, always
You've
zero.
always okay.
No,
Okay.
no, that's not true. I mean, I started playing piano when I was like 6 or 7, I think, is when I first officially started like lessons. But there was this upright piano at my grandma's house in Aberdeen, and I remember when I was super small, anytime we'd go visit her, I just want to like bang around on there and experiment and make noises. And so eventually my folks got a piano for our house, and which was such a huge gift, and put me in lessons. And From there, also got into singing, played a
Mm.
little bit of guitar. I had a drum set for about 6 months before that got banished from the house. Growing up, yeah, and just always loved music. And then I got into Ableton and producing. That came a little bit later in life. I think when I was in college, like my sophomore year of college, undergrad, I downloaded Ableton for the first time, and then it was just
Mm.
like game over. I was so excited about all of the things you could do with just a laptop and some headphones. That's all you really needed. So yeah, it's been a lifelong thing for me for sure.
So when you first got into music, did you initially explore like the EDM side of things, or were you exploring other genres? Because that's your main genre, right? EDM. You just performed at EDC as
It is,
well.
yeah, it is, but it's also I love all different genres. I have like a lot of older releases that are more on kind of like the indie, um, alt rock side of things, alt pop, and I have just kind of been more into EDM lately because that's where my music seems to fit best. I wouldn't necessarily call myself like an EDM native artist, but I love playing those festivals. I love DJing so much. I love dance music. I love dancing. So that's kind of where where I'm
Got it.
existing at the moment. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, yeah.
I'll link your some of your songs in the show notes, but for those who
Oh,
haven't heard
sweet.
you yet, what how would you kind of explain your genre to someone in EDM?
Yeah, it's like I sometimes I know it's kind of a corny way of putting it, but it's like dancing while I'm crying type music. Like
Mm,
it's still very emotional. I'm using less conventional, maybe that's the wrong word, less common chord progressions, still throwing in like a lot of sevens and nines and extra notes and things in there. So there's still like there's I'm not, that's not to say that mainstream medium isn't also emotional or doesn't sometimes employ those chord progressions, but yeah, it's definitely not just all about partying and getting drunk at the festival and all of this. Like I do want to convey a wider range of emotions than what, I don't know, some people might think of when they think of EDM. I don't know.
yeah. You know, when I first came across you, it was at ETH Denver. Catalog, the NFT platform, the one platform, hosted like a really great party. They featured a lot of the artists on their platform, and you were one of them. And I remember at the same time I tweeted about this around that time, but Tiesto was playing around the same time that you were playing, and my cousin and I, when we worked together, and we were like, should we go to Tiesto? Should we stay here? And thankfully we stayed because I think out of everyone that was performing, we really enjoyed your set the most. And we like when you got on stage, like the vibes kicked in, kind of thing,
Oh
right? And I
man, that's so
remember we were
awesome.
like looking at each other, like, wow, like who is this? Like this is really fucking good. Like who's playing right now? We've never really heard music like this before. So that kind of like
Oh,
intros
that's so
us
sweet.
into into Web three. So when you first minted that piece on chain, was that on OpenSea? Was that on Zora? Like, how did you kind of know what platforms to use and how to navigate that landscape?
Yeah, that's another good question. So my first one was actually on Catalog. I was very like blessed and fortunate to have connected with Cece from Catalog and then through her Jeremy. So they helped to onboard me onto the platform, walked me through the whole process, kind of held my hand through the first minting experience. And so that, yeah, that was my intro. And since then, I've also done a couple of drops on Sound, and those are the only two platforms that I've worked with so far. And just kind of being very, I got the careful isn't the right word, but selective with
Mm,
where things end up. That's I don't want to be, I don't want this project to be scattered across too many different places, too many
right.
different chains, etc. So I'm just kind of keeping it limited to those two for now. But yeah, my first foray into minting was through catalog, and it's been such a great experience ever since.
One of the biggest challenges a lot of creators have in the space, whether you're a musician, an artist, whatever, is finding that first collector to support you, to kind of align with your art. Uh, how did you find yours? Like, what was the story behind that?
Um, the internet. I had never actually spoken to my first collector before. I didn't know who they were. But months leading up into the drop, I mean, I was still very active in a lot of different spaces around music NFTs,
Mm,
supporting other people's projects, learning as much as I could. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm just going to mint this and, see what happens. Like I had definitely done a few months of work prior to that, just learning, understanding, and really just trying to connect with the community. Because that's been my favorite part of Web3 so far, honestly. And I'm sure a lot of people would say the same thing, is just the people that they've met through the space. And so I think putting in that time and making those relationships ahead of time is really what kind of led me to wherever I am now with the collectors
right.
I have now. But yeah, it didn't have any personal relationship with them prior. It was just a total surprise. So
So that's kind of like what I preach on the podcast. I think it was Daniel Allen who introduced this kind of concept of learning and educating yourself and joining communities prior to kind of approaching your first drop and trying to find your first few collectors. When he was on, I think it was like season 3, he kind of referenced like, okay, if you want to drop something, put a pin in it and then revisit that 3 to 6 months from now, join communities, buy some tokens, support other people, educate yourself, meet and make friends online, and then likely those people will probably be your first few collectors, if not your first collector. So you didn't know who was your first collector from what you're telling me.
no,
It
I
was just
didn't know
some
who they
random
were. I
person.
mean,
Okay.
yeah, I was like, who's their Twitter handle is Psy Bourgeoisie. I was like, who is that? It's so funny, it's so clever. And yeah, so and even since, I mean, I think the one collector who I have now, who I knew maybe prior to minting, was Cooper. And Cooper is, let's see, I think I met him like maybe the year before minting. I was playing
Okay.
at Exchange in LA. And so we had some mutual friends and met backstage there. And then I was just being a creepy internet stalker for a few months and like just absorbing a lot of what he was sharing. He's, as many know, such a wealth of information and
Hmm.
resources. And so it was just following a lot of what he was putting out. And so it was really cool to then, so much later after first meeting him, like have him collect one of ones on catalog and some other NFT since. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
makes
that
sense.
was one
Cooper.
like pre-existing connection, but yeah.
Yeah, Cooper has been on the pod a bunch as well. Shout out to Coop. So I also want to talk to you about this concept of value, because an NFT is just like a token at the end of the day, right? And it derives value somehow, right? Figuring out what to price your first drop or your first one of one or your first edition can actually be really challenging. When Verte was on, who's another like really well known artist in the crypto space, she basically suggested not putting a price on it, rather leaving an open market bid and letting kind of like the market decide what the value is, right? Did you approach it the same way, or how did you kind of decide what value to attribute to your first drop, let alone future drops that you initiated afterwards?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I think my approach to this has sort of changed over the last few months, to where nowadays I really am most comfortable just letting the market decide. I do think it is, though, important to value yourself, and to value your work. And I think you can still do that while letting the market decide via auction or however, um, what they want to spend on something or value something at. But yeah, a lot of my first drops, I set like a pretty what I would consider a fairly high um, uh, reserve price. Um, and then now in a lot of recent drops, I've just been setting it at like zero point 0.1 or something that's really accessible, because I do also want to give folks, and I'm talking about this, speaking on this in reference to one of ones. Um, and I do want to give collectors, a chance to maybe get things at more affordable prices if someone's not really prepared to spend like 4 ETH or 5 ETH on a one of one. Like it's cool to also like give folks a window into collecting, that doesn't immediately, price them out at a certain point. So it varies. I wish I had a clearer answer to this question. Ultimately, it's something that I have decided in this format is out of my control. I can't really force people to say like, hey, you need to value this at this much money. Um, because it's up to the person and it's up to their relationship with the work, and it's not so much in my direct control.
Hmm.
um, and what something sells for doesn't necessarily dictate what I consider the work to be worth at the end of the day also, and so those two things don't have to be the same, basically.
I've heard stories of artists getting offended by bids being placed on their work. And I
Mm.
guess that leads me to like my next question, like what makes one music NFT more valuable than others?
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer to that question, because it's always going to be different for different people. Folks have different motives for collecting things. Some people see it, as a way to make money. And it's, a new asset class for them. Some people, it's about the connection with the artist, and it's about their, maybe belief or future belief about where the project is going to go over time. Maybe there's some overlap there with financial gains as well. Um, for some people, it's about the utility of the NFT and like maybe what that gains access to,
Mm.
either in the moment or in the future, depending on what that particular artist or project is building towards. So it's just, I feel like it's an impossible answer, honestly, to give.
I think like what ends up driving value to music NFTs could be things that occur off chain, like the amount of royalties or streams that a song accrues that ends up being tokenized, right? Or
Yeah.
sort of the community that gets built around the assets, right? And building a band of collectors around your brand, building a band of collectors around your music on chain. And I guess like my next question to you is, what do you think collectors care about the most before they buy a music NFT? Is it the song? Do they actually connect with the music? Do they see a potential to invest in an artist in like a non-equity format because they think this artist is going to do well in the future? Do they just want to join a community, be a part of the conversation? Do they want to help the artist? These are all sort of answers that I've kind of heard trickle in the past. But from your perspective, why do you think collectors care about collecting these music collectibles? And that's a lot of collects in one sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, from who I've talked to, which is, it's a limited perspective, but um, I find that at least with a lot of my collectors, it really is about community for one thing, and also just wanting to support the artist. Um, Again, everyone is going to have their own unique motives, based on their own experiences, but I really, and part of the reason why I also wanted to make music NFTs and work with this format and this medium in the first place was because I genuinely, um, I crave stronger connections with my community. With a platform like Spotify, I might have like a million plays on a song, but I have no idea really who those people are. I can see like breakdowns of demographics, but I don't have a way to directly reach out to them or start conversations with them. Um, and that's really disappointing, and it's just it's hard for me to get excited about putting music on those platforms, because it just feels like there's no real emotional connection to the listener in that way. Whereas, if I'm playing a song live at a show, I can see everyone in front of me who's connecting with it. I have that experience. So I think through music NFTs, this maybe offers a ways to just improve those connections and that sort of feedback of energy with people, beyond, you know, it's almost like a one-sided conversation of like, hey, here's my work,
Hmm.
and then the convo stops there. That's just not as exciting to me.
So, should artists strive for quantity over quality or vice versa? For example, optimize
Mm,
for streams versus a small band of collectors on chain, for example? Like, what's your mental model around that? Because you need to do
yeah,
both, right? I think they're not like,
yeah,
I don't think they live individually, but where's that happy medium, you know?
yeah. I think that's going to be different for everyone. I know for me in my career, I'm definitely trying to approach all of this in as balanced of a way as possible. I recognize that within Web3 at this point, we don't really have the reach that, you know, Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Music, putting music out on these platforms can have. So we do need to exist in those spaces. I do appreciate connecting with people in that way too. I don't mean to say that I don't appreciate that. It's just I don't feel as much of an emotional connection to it because there's no way for me to even really process like the
Sure.
numbers of people that are streaming it.
Right.
So it's like that to me is still a necessary part. And interacting with like the traditional music industry in certain ways for me is still necessary. Working with an agent, going out, getting on these other festival lineups, and like trying to tour and play as many shows as possible. That's all super important to me, and it's something that I just love doing. I'm so thrilled to be able to spend time doing that. Um, and at the same time, I it's like I want to make music that it's not necessarily for the masses. Of course, I want to connect
Mm,
with people, as many people as possible through music, but I don't ever want to compromise my vision to make something that's maybe more like easily digestible or listenable to someone or fits easier onto a playlist. Um, so to me, then having a small group of more like hardcore fans, appreciators, collectors who really care about that niche type of music, is special to me as an artist, and sort of from the perspective of like my own integrity and just not compromising the music that I make to fit in these other arenas, if that makes
mhm.
any sense at
Yeah.
all.
What's up, guys? Adam Levy here. Sorry for the quick pause, but I wanted to recognize a couple of our NFT sponsors who are helping make this episode a reality. They are Coinvise and Mint Songs. First up, on Coinvise, you can create a personal or community owned social token on Ethereum. Coinvise also helps you create incentives through token rewards and bounties, NFT business models, and bot integrations for Discord. Discover more by visiting coinvise.co today. Next up, we've got Mint Songs, a community curated marketplace for one-of-one music NFTs minted on Ethereum. Mint Songs connects music lovers and collectors with artists that want to build unique one-to-one relationships with their fans through music. To join as an artist, you will need to be invited by an existing artist or an existing collector within the Mint Songs community. Check out the artists pioneering the future of Web3 music today by visiting mintsongs.com. All right, back to the episode. That makes a lot of sense because I guess you wanna create more value and more like interpersonal experiences with your listeners slash collectors, right? And
Yeah.
I know you've been vocal about that. And kind of the conversation that we had prior to the interview was kind of understanding what you have in store for your collectors. So my next question to you is, what has been your experience, one, with trying to bring more value to your collectors, and two, what do you have in store for them in the future?
Yeah. So my experience so far with utility has been giving collectors, access to my shows for one thing. So if I'm, on tour in their city, they can email an address that I have, request guest list, and come to the show. So they can just be on my list, and in some cases, come hang out backstage. in some cases also win like festival passes to EDC or to Hard Summer, which is coming up. So definitely trying to create value through those kind of just pre-existing shows and things, and sending people merch, sending people signed vinyl so they have some physical things as well.
Mm.
Um, but going forward, I'm actually really excited to be putting together a new, it's going to be an annual series, and the first one is kicking off this August, called Sonic Summit. And so it's going to be an intimate kind of, it's almost like an artist retreat, but you don't have to be an artist to come and to participate. So it's going to be 3 days here in Sun Valley, Idaho, which if you've never heard of Sun Valley, it's not maybe like the farmland visual that comes to mind when you think of Idaho. It's nestled in between like these 5 different mountain ranges. It's a really, really beautiful place. And it's somewhere that I've come to like most summers and winters since I was a kid. I've lived here on and off actually a lot in my adult life. Um, I have such a deep connection with this place. A lot of other artists in the past too have all come here to write, to create music. I know Hemingway has had a very strong presence here, and he's actually buried here. So lots of like authors, artists from many different points in the last, I guess, decade or so. I think this place was started in like the 30s. I should brush up more on the history of Sun Valley, but it's a really cool place. It's a special place. So I'm really excited to be bringing people out here for 3 days of just some hiking, eating some good food in town, having some good conversations. We'll do some yoga, do a little bit of mindfulness, and on the last day, we're actually going to do a small outdoor concert. So it's going to be open for collectors to come to. We're going to get a nice production crew out here to come and film it. So it'll be
Oh
streamed
shit.
for those who aren't
Wow.
able to travel for it. And then I just want to have recordings of everything. So that way we also, as artists, have those assets to then share, use however we want to. And we're creating something that's this really special, intimate experience, but I also don't want to like exclude people from experiencing the art. So we will have like recorded versions of everything too. But I'm just so thrilled to be putting this together. Like I've done a lot of artist retreats out here in the past and have been trying to think of ways to like put something together that also includes fans, includes music appreciators, but not have it be an overwhelmingly large event or something that I can't
Hmm.
reasonably manage with a small team. Because I'm still independent. I'm not signed to any major labels, and it, I think to fund something on a larger scale would be very challenging. So
Right.
keeping it small and intimate, and kind of like a laid back, easygoing approach. It's like I don't want every single second of the day to be scheduled. I want people to be able to come out here and relax. So yeah, putting together something like this has been a dream of mine for a long time, and it just seems like using Web3 to kind of connect all the dots, no pun intended, is a really great way to bring together the right community for this, and yeah, execute this project. So I'm really excited.
I have yet to see an artist do something at this scale for their community. I think it's really unique. I think it's really powerful. And I think once you do it, you're going to set the example for many other artists to create more like grandiose experiences around their collector community, right? I guess my question to you is, what do you hope to achieve by the end of the festival? Like, why
Mm.
put something like this together? Okay, sure, bring people together, but is it to have everybody connect with one another? Are you dropping something during that time? Do you just want to say thank you? Like, what's the goal behind this?
I just want everyone to make really good memories, honestly, and to have really good experiences that, um, maybe shapes a little bit of their outlook on life in some way, or their perspective on life, or just maybe provides them with a little bit of relief from this crazy, crazy world that we are living in. I know maybe politically speaking, bringing folks to Idaho is not as much in alignment with my values as other locations, but um, the nature here is really powerful, and that's something that I just genuinely want to share it with good people. So there's not really any bigger motives at play
Amazing.
besides just wanting people to have a really good experience here. This is something that it shapes a lot of the music that I create. And so I think to have like fans come and be able to see, some of the inspiration behind what I'm doing, I just think that's a really cool thing. Um, then that's, yeah, I wish I had a cooler answer.
I love
But
that.
yeah,
No, that's as
everyone's
cool as
like,
it gets, honestly.
like I just want people to have a good time. Yeah, and everyone's gonna get airdropped some I'm calling them adventure passes, which I know is a little bit corny and Disney sounding, but I thought it was cute. So all of my holders are getting these adventure passes, and then for future events, and like if we can keep doing these, maybe even in other locations around the world. I'm this getting a little far ahead of myself because I want to make sure we can just get this one executed so far, but my goal and my plan here is to do these in other locations, and then you can get like your adventure pass stamped for each one you go to. So it's kind of like a
Nice.
passport, um, on-chain passport for this project. So yeah,
I
I've
love
got
that.
like a million other ideas beyond this too, but this is what I'm focused on executing right now. I'm just really excited about it.
I love that. What a way to tie value all together and create memorable experiences for the people who kind of bet on you early on. Um, I'm hoping I can make it to the
You
big
gotta
festival.
come. You gotta
Yeah,
come
I'm
August
down.
19th or 21st. It'll be fun.
That's really cool and actually a really unique experience that I've yet to see more people do. So props to you. Top, before I let you go, I want to leave you off with one final question. Okay. For new artists entering the space that want to achieve, I guess, a fraction of success or a level of success that you've achieved so far, finding collectors, building a community, performing at Web3 conferences, building an audience in the space, what are some tips, 3 tips that you'd give someone
Mm.
on how to navigate? And this could be either from something that you wish you had known prior to starting that you've kind of learned as you've developed, or I guess whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the biggest tip that I would give is just showing up in the community as a supporter. Um, Even when I was getting my start in music prior to Web3, um, like a lot of where I began as a producer and as a DJ all came from like the LA kind of underground scene. I played at like Low End Theory, which was this really incredible club that happened every Wednesday night at the Airliner in LA for I think over 10 years running. And the reason why I was able to play there so much and like release records on Alpha Pup and um, be immersed in that community is because before all that happened, I was just showing up every single week because I was a huge fan of the music and a huge fan of all the artists who were playing there. And I would be there open to close. I would help like load stuff in. I was like an intern at the label for a while. And so I think it really just tried to apply a lot of that ethos to my involvement in Web3. And it wasn't even done like on a conscious level. I just understand that like if you want to participate in a scene or a community, you have to start as like a supporter and a contributor. Otherwise you're just showing up and saying, hey, look at me, this is what I can do. And it's like people are like, okay, well, hi, why should I care? Like, okay, cool. I just think it's important that you show up as a supporter, and it's not even something that maybe you should have to think of doing. It's like if you love that scene or that community and that music, like hopefully that just kind of comes naturally. Um, so that's definitely a really big tip. Just maybe show up for other artists who you care about and support. If you can't afford to like buy someone's one of one, a retweet is free. um, Sharing the word is free. So I think that's really important. Besides that, as far as tips go, gosh, that's really my biggest one. Can I just have one instead of three? Keep it focused.
Yeah, that works. We'll wrap it up with that. That was the mic drop. We love to hear it, Dot. Before I let you go, where can we find you? Where can we find more about the conference slash event you're putting
Yes.
together?
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, and your music in general. Where can we find that?
Yes. So I think if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, those are two pretty good hubs. I am dot music on Twitter, so DOTMVSIC. The U is a V. Dot music. Music. And same thing on Instagram. So there'll be more information there. You should be able to find, like, there's a link in my bio that has all of the links to all the things. So if you want to jump in my Discord server, that's getting a major update here in the next week, and we can connect
Nice.
there. So I'm really excited to get that hub going again. Music is everywhere you like to listen to internet music. So it is on Spotify, Apple Music. If you just search Dot Ambush EP is my latest release. It should pop up for you there. Got drops on catalog and sound, and yeah,
You're
I'm
everywhere.
everywhere.
You're everywhere.
You
We love
have
to
to be
see it.
everywhere.
Dot, thank you so much. We'll have to do this again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love the podcast. I'm such a fan and just so stoked to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.